All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. We'll go ahead and get started. Thank you all for joining today's webinar on the Federal Communications Commission's Affordable Connectivity Program, or ACP. We are thrilled that you were able to join us today. As a quick reminder, we ask that you remain muted when entering the webinar and for the duration of the presentation. There will be an opportunity for a Q&A session after the presentation. You may also use the Q&A and chat features at any point throughout today's webinar to queue up any questions that you may have for our presenter today. Today's webinar will also be recorded, and we'll make sure to make it available on NACo's Knowledge Network shortly, hopefully within 24 hours after the conclusion of the webinar. So with that, let's go ahead and get started with today's program. We're so fortunate to have the FCC joining us today for an in-depth discussion of the ACP. As we all know, the county role in providing affordable and reliable internet access is essential. The COVID-19 pandemic laid bare for all counties just how important high-speed internet is for remote education, teleworking, and keeping our underrepresented residents connected in a rapidly moving world. An essential piece of connecting our residents to high-speed internet involves ensuring that access is affordable for everybody. So to speak a little bit further on that end, I'd actually like to kick it over now to NACo's immediate past president, Judge Gary Moore of Boone County, Kentucky, who will introduce our FCC speaker for today. So once again, thank you all for joining today. And Judge Moore, I give you the floor.
Thank you, Seamus. Good afternoon, NACo. It's a pleasure to be with you here today. And you might imagine if I'm with you, we're talking broadband, my favorite subject. I have the pleasure of introducing our speaker for today's webinar on the FCC's Affordable Connectivity Program. Access to high-speed internet is a basic necessity in today's economy. As NACo discovered during our work on the Broadband Task Force last July, the need for affordable internet access is the gateway to ensuring all of our residents are able to participate in our modern life of today. The Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, or BIL, or bill, it's called several things, but in the end, it says the same thing. It was passed by Congress and signed by the president last November. It provides us with numerous opportunities to achieve the goal of sustainable connections to all of our residents. In addition to providing $48 billion for broadband infrastructure deployment across the country, the BIL provides $14.2 billion to the FCC for the Affordable Connectivity Program. County officials have many roles to play in ensuring equity in broadband deployment and accessibility. One of the most concrete ways in which we can ensure equitable access to the internet is by helping the FCC to provide affordability options to our residents, to all of our households really, and individuals who are the most in need of assistance. With that, I'd like to introduce our speaker for today. We're pleased to be joined by Ed Barthelme. I'm sorry, Ed, let me start all over. Barthelme, Associate Bureau Chief of the Consumer and Governmental Affairs Bureau at the FCC. Ed leads the Commission's education and outreach efforts, along with the Consumer Complaints and Inquiries Division. Prior to joining the FCC, Ed spent 10 years as the Executive Director and CEO of Call for Action, a national nonprofit network of hotlines serving consumers and small businesses. Ed, I want to thank you for taking so much time with us today and to have this discussion. Counties are eager to learn more about how we can partner with your agency on the Affordable Connectivity Program. So without further delay, I'm going to give you the floor. And again, thank you.
Thank you, Judge Moore. And I want to start by saying that at the FCC, we recognize the important role that counties play and the important partnership opportunities. So thank you to NACo as well for inviting us to join today. And I look forward to telling you guys some more about the Affordable Connectivity Program and having some conversations around how we can better work together. So I'm gonna do a screen share here and pull up some slides. So give me a minute to get that going. Okay. So what I plan to do today is cover what the benefit is, who's eligible, how households can apply, and provide an overview of a toolkit that the FCC has developed to aid partners, navigators, and others that serve their community in getting the word out about this important program. And the Affordable Connectivity Program is a new long-term program. We call it the ACP, and it's designed to assist households struggling to pay for internet services. At the end, I'll share some websites where you can find additional information about the program and also details on how to follow up with the FCC if you do have additional questions or comments after today's presentation. As our chairwoman has taken to saying lately, broadband is no longer nice to have, it is truly need to have. And that's where the ACP comes in. It allows students to connect to classrooms, individuals to work remotely, and it can connect all of us to family, friends, telehealth services, and other critical resources. The benefit provides eligible households with up to a $30 a month discount for broadband services, including associated equipment rentals such as a modem. That benefit increases to up to $75 a month for households located on qualifying tribal lands. And the program can also provide a one-time discount of up to $100 for a laptop, desktop computer, or tablet purchased through a participating provider if the household contributes more than $10 and less than $50 towards the purchase price. It's important to note that the connected device must be provided by the same provider that the eligible household is receiving discounted broadband service from as part of the program. It's not a coupon or a rebate, and it can't be used at a third-party retail store to buy a device. The ACP is limited to one monthly service discount and one device discount per eligible household. And the benefit is not a direct-to-consumer benefit. It's a discount off of the monthly bill and/or device. And then the service provider seeks reimbursement directly from the program. The program is administered by the Universal Service Company, Universal Service Administrative Company, or USAC, and they also administer the Lifeline program. USAC does host the online application portal, and that's at acpbenefit.org. So next we'll talk a little bit about who's eligible. So there are many ways for a household to qualify, and a household is eligible for the ACP if the household income is at or below 200% of federal poverty guidelines, or if a member of the household meets at least one of the following criteria. If someone in the household participates in certain assistance programs such as SNAP, Medicaid, federal public housing assistance, veteran survivor or pension benefits, SSI, WIC, or Lifeline. If someone in the household participates in certain tribal specific programs such as Bureau of Indian Affairs General Assistance, Tribal TANF, or food distribution on Indian reservations, and the household is located on qualifying tribal lands. If anyone in the household participates in the National School Lunch or School Breakfast Program, including through USDA's Community Eligibility Provision. If someone in the household has received a federal Pell Grant during the current award year, or if any member of the household meets the eligibility criteria for a participating provider's existing low-income internet program. So many of you may remember and be familiar with programs that existed before the pandemic, Comcast Internet Essentials, Charter, or Spectrum Assist, and there are others. Those are just a couple to explain. But if a household did qualify for one of those, they automatically qualify for the Affordable Connectivity Program. And it's important to keep in mind that households need to only meet one of the eligibility criteria, not all 6. Some of you may be familiar with the Lifeline program. Lifeline's a federal program that lowers the monthly cost of phone and internet services, and eligible customers get up to $9.25 or $34.25 again for households on tribal lands towards their bill. And you can learn more about Lifeline by visiting fcc.gov/lifeline-consumers. And current Lifeline participants are automatically eligible for the ACP. And in most cases, they don't need to apply separately for the benefit. They do need to select a service plan in order to receive the benefit. Current Lifeline recipients cannot be auto-enrolled in the Affordable Connectivity Program by their current Lifeline service provider. They need to provide affirmative consent before they can be enrolled and start receiving the ACP benefit. Households can receive both the Lifeline and the ACP benefit at the same time. They can be applied to the same qualifying service or separately to a Lifeline service and an ACP service with the same or different providers. So for example, an eligible household could have a Lifeline supported mobile phone service and a separate home broadband service that's supported through the Affordable Connectivity Program. By now, you're probably noticing that I've been using the word household a lot when I talk about eligibility. And for the purposes of the Affordable Connectivity Program, a household is defined as a group of people who live together and share money, even if they are not related to each other. If you live together and share money, you're one household for this program's purposes. If you either don't live together or do not share money, you are two or more households. So if you think of a scenario where roommates are sharing expenses but are not sharing income, so they're splitting rent or splitting other bills but aren't sharing income, they could qualify as multiple households under the program rules, and therefore multiple roommates living at the same address could be eligible for the Affordable Connectivity Program. Households can also qualify because of an eligible dependent or child. So if you think about the school lunch program qualification entry paths, that's how you can get in through an eligible child or dependent. And you may have to answer questions about your household when you apply for the Affordable Connectivity Program. There is a household worksheet that's available to assist in determining household eligibility. It's also worth noting that if a household has a bill or other liability for their broadband access that someone else, such as the property owner or a school, is helping to pay, the household could switch to using ACP support to pay for broadband service instead of relying on that third party support. The program is available to eligible households within multi-unit dwellings, such as apartment buildings, nursing homes, and group homes. And residents in those situations can also take advantage of the benefit. There are ways for the landlord or property manager, if they are the internet account holder, to work with a participating provider to document the costs that would be passed through to a household in order to receive internet access, and then have the ACP applied for eligible households in those scenarios. And the best way for interested households or eligible households in scenarios like that, where it's a multi-unit dwelling, to really start the process is to have a conversation with the account holder, because they need to take the active step to coordinate with the participating provider to get the ball rolling for households to begin benefiting from the Affordable Connectivity Program. You can learn more about how the program defines a household by visiting acpbenefit.org under Do I Qualify is a household. So let's talk about how you can enroll. The program opened for enrollment on December 31st of last year, and there are two benefit.org to complete an online application or print out a mail-in application. Households can also qualify 877-384-2575 to request an application. Again, that's 877-384-2575. Once they've completed the application and they've gotten their approval, the second step is to then contact their preferred participating provider to select a service plan and have the discount applied to their bill. Some providers may have an alternative application that they will ask households to complete, and eligible households must both apply for the program and contact a participating provider to select a service plan. This is true even if they want to apply the benefit to their existing monthly service. And keep in mind that the individual applying for the benefit will need to sign the application and make other attestations in the online portal or as part of the paper application process. So they do need to be present. This is not something that you can fill out for someone over the phone based on the program rules. So when we stood up the Affordable Connectivity Program, as many of you are aware, this is a program that replaces the Emergency Broadband Benefit Program. And the legislation that created this program gave the Commission the opportunity to implement some important consumer protections as part of the Affordable Connectivity Program. So consumers can choose the service plan that best meets their needs, including a plan they may already be on. Consumers cannot be denied access to the program or program supported services based on their credit. Eligible households can't be excluded based on prior debt with a participating provider. Consumers can't be forced into more expensive or lower quality plans in order to receive the ACP. And this is also referred to as upselling or downselling. Consumers can change their benefit to a different participating service provider at any time. And the program rules are also designed to reduce the potential for bill shock or other financial harms. Another important tool that we have now in support of the ACP is a dedicated complaint process that consumers can avail themselves of if they have a problem with their service or their provider. And they can find that at consumercomplaints.fcc.gov. Again, that's consumercomplaints.fcc.gov. There's a button on that page that says ACP, and that's how you start the process to file an ACP related complaint. A couple of notes on participating providers. There are over 1,300 across the country that are currently participating. The program is open to all broadband providers that meet program requirements, not just those that were offering Lifeline service before. Both fixed and mobile broadband providers have elected to participate in the program. You can check the list of broadband service providers in your area and learn more about the programs they're offering. And you can find that list of participating providers at fcc.gov/ACP. And on that page, you'll find a link to where we have all the providers listed, and that's broken down by state and territory. USAC also offers a tool on their website where you can enter your zip code. It's called the Companies Near Me tool, and that's a way to find providers participating based on a zip code as opposed to a state. So a little bit more granular search capability on the acpbenefit.org website. I also wanted to share today some information about a toolkit the FCC has created. So we have a collection of outreach materials with social media, printables, and other tools that you can use to help spread the word, to let people who you think might be eligible in your area, make them aware of the program. These are, we've got posters and handouts that can be hung up in libraries or county service buildings. Especially if you have county offices that help people find programs similar to the ACP or some of the underlying eligibility programs like Medicaid and other types of federal assistance or state assistance programs. These are easy to grab, print out, post. You can customize them, you can co-brand them. The goal here is really to make things that anybody can take and use to spread the word about this new program and this important program. They're all free to use. We have materials available in English, Spanish, and 10 other languages. And again, you can find a link to that toolkit online at fcc.gov/ACP. So for my last slide, I've got a bunch of resources. Again, the main hub for a lot of this information is fcc.gov/ACP. The number for the support center, again, 877-384-2575. We do have a pretty exhaustive consumer FAQ that you can find on the website as well. Lots of great information there, broken out by various sort of topic tabs, so you can start to do a deeper dive. The toolkit I mentioned, there's a direct web address for the toolkit here on the slide. And to apply, the website you can send people to is acpbenefit.org. And the contact information for additional information, if you have follow-up questions after today's event or just want to look for reaching out to discuss potential partnership opportunities, things like that, you can send an email to acpinfo@fcc.gov. I'm going to pull this down right now. I'm happy to put it back up later if that's useful for folks, but I did also want to quickly share some information about the transition from the emergency broadband benefit to the Affordable Connectivity Program. So many of you were probably aware of the emergency broadband benefit. That was a COVID response program that Congress created to provide temporary relief to households struggling to afford broadband services during the pandemic. The ACP replaces that with a new longer-term program. The ACP is funded at $14 billion, and we expect that to last, much longer into the future. The key differences are that the benefit did change for non-tribal households. So for households on tribal land, there's no change to the benefit, remains at $75. For households not located on tribal land, the benefit is reduced from $50 to $30 a month. And this was directly in the legislation. This was not part of the FCC rulemaking decision process. This is what Congress instructed. So the benefit did get reduced. There are new ways for households to qualify under the ACP. So one of the big changes is that instead of being based on 135% of federal poverty guidelines, households can now qualify with that are at or below up to 200% of federal poverty guidelines. There's also WIC was also added as an underlying benefit program that would qualify a household for ACP. So if a household has someone who is receiving WIC benefits, they are eligible for ACP. There were two COVID-specific ways for households to qualify for the emergency broadband benefit that are no longer a part of the Affordable Connectivity Program. The main one of those is that a household could qualify for EBB if they had a substantial loss of income as a result of a job loss or furlough from basically from March of 2020 through the program. And there was some income bracketing there if that was a situation that a household was in, but that part went away. So a household can't qualify based on that provision any longer. The other provision that sort of also transitioned out with the end of the EBB was if a household had been a participant in a provider's COVID-19 program, that also has gone away. For households that were participating in EBB through either of those qualification paths, they would have been contacted by USAC and given instructions on how to requalify under the ACP program prior to March 1st. So when Congress made this transition of programs from the EBB to the ACP, they did create a 60-day transition period that started on December 31st and provided that any household in the EBB program would continue to receive their same monthly benefit. So if they were receiving up to $50, they would continue to receive up to $50 until March 1st. After March 1st, everybody's now should be receiving the $30 monthly benefit or the maximum of a $30 monthly benefit as part of the ACP program. Every household that was in EBB was automatically transitioned to ACP with a few limited exceptions. In some instances, providers did need to get consent from a household. So this was really designed to prevent bill shock from occurring. So in limited instances, providers did need to reach out to households to confirm and get their consent that they wanted to stay in the ACP with the reduced benefit. But that was not the case for most households. Most households were automatically transitioned and did not have to take any action to continue receiving the ACP benefit after the transition occurred. We do have over 10 million households that are enrolled in the Affordable Connectivity Program as of today. If you do visit the USAC website, you can find a data tracker that has information and statistical information about enrollment numbers. It's broken down by zip at the 3-digit and the 5-digit level. There's a weekly update of state enrollment level data where you can find the number of people enrolled in your state. There's also some other ways that the data is broken out based on age of households that are enrolling and a couple other ways that we've sort of sliced that data so that folks can take a look there. So I encourage, if you're interested in sort of seeing what the numbers are like in your county or in your local area, please do take a look at that, the USAC data tracker. I can drop the link to that in the chat once we get to sort of the more Q&A portion and the more back and forth portion. A couple things I do want to share. There are some exciting opportunities that are attached to the Affordable Connectivity Program that will give us the ability to better partner and to better get information out about this important program. So we do have authorization and funding to create an outreach grant program as part of the Affordable Connectivity Program. That is something that is in the FCC's comment process right now. So it's an active docket, and we're in the reply comment phase. So comments closed on March 15th. You have until April 14th to file reply comments as part of that docket. I encourage you to do so. We're really looking for input on how best to stand up an outreach program and how to make that most effective in helping others get the word out about this important program. In addition to that, we have the ability to do paid media, some focus group work, and some other research around the program to ensure that our messaging is effective and that we're meeting consumers where they are and best sort of getting information out to them about the program. One other thing that we're still seeking comment on related to the ACP and outreach is we're considering a pilot program where we would work with partners to ensure that any household that is a recipient of federal public housing assistance is notified about the opportunity and the fact that they automatically qualify for the Affordable Connectivity Program. So that's another opportunity for you guys to share thoughts as part of the record and to help inform what we're doing and what we're planning to do. I think there's one other thing that's not still being discussed in the record, but was part of the ACP rulemaking that I think is very relevant to this sort of county level audience that we have here today. The FCC is working on standing up a pilot program that would enable and empower navigators. And our definition of navigators here are really state and local partners and government connected partners. So think of things like school districts, maybe county library associations, state unemployment offices, or in the staff in those offices, to help households enroll in the ACP. So this would be providing them with direct access to the enrollment system, similar to the way that providers can enroll households in certain situations. So this is a program that's really targeted as a pilot and is going to be available to state and local governmental partners. And there will be more information coming about that program shortly. We haven't released the sort of sign up process for that or the sort of full set of information about how that's going to be structured. But that is something that we're actively working to finalize in the near term. So I encourage you to stay tuned and to look for that information. And with that, I can stop talking now and throw it open to more of a discussion phase, if that works for you guys.
Well, thank you, Ed, so much for all of that informative information. We really appreciate the presentation. And the first question that came up was a pretty simple one. Will the PowerPoint slides be available or made available? I presume the answer is yes, but wanted to ask you. There were so many good resources, particularly on that last slide, so I wanted to make sure those would be available.
Yeah, and definitely as soon as we're done today, I will send you guys the deck so that you can send it out to everyone.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you, Ed. Well, with that, folks, if you're welcome to raise your hand and we can call on you and unmute you if you have a question you'd like to bring about that way. We also have the Q&A feature. One question I wanted to bring up, Ed, is, certainly counties are on the front line in terms of broadband deployment and infrastructure, but also that affordability piece is so key. And one of the biggest county programs we're working through right now came out of the American Rescue Plan, of course, the state and local fiscal recovery funds. And one of the critical infrastructure areas we're permitted to focus on is broadband infrastructure. When the Treasury Department's guidance earlier this year came out and expanded different ways in which counties can contribute to broadband infrastructure, one of their additional key pieces was that we would need to tie it back to the ACP, so be able to provide the Affordable Connectivity Program. So, really appreciate you sharing those outreach materials and some of the toolkits there. But in terms of thinking about county level broadband infrastructure, the outreach toolkit is one way in which counties can give to providers in their region more information for how to sign up for the ACP. But would you recommend any other practices for making sure that any providers not currently utilizing the ACP are able to get on and sign on and use that?
Yeah, and that's a great flag and a really good question. So I mentioned that we have over 1,300 providers. The door isn't closed, I think is maybe the best way to say it. We are still actively looking for more providers to participate in this program. If you do visit the fcc.gov/ACP, on that page, there is a little sentence or two about if providers want to participate and where to go to get more information on how to complete the sort of election forms and to sign up. You don't need to be an ETC to participate in the program. I think that's an important thing for folks to know, that this is sort of broadly open to any provider that does meet program requirements. And we would love to see more providers participating. So, maybe talk to the providers in your area if they aren't already signed up, and start that dialogue about, getting them to come on board and offer this to residents.
Great, thank you. And I see also you dropped in the data tracker as well for claims. I think we saw a press release lately that a very high number of households are already signing up. And you mentioned that this program is really designed to last. So in contrast to the EBB or emergency broadband benefit, the ACP is more longer term. Does the FCC have an idea right now of kind of projection for how long they think this benefit will be available to households, or is it really dependent on enrollment over a longer term period?
Yeah, so we haven't put out a projection in terms of anticipated time or length for the program. It is really tied to enrollment. I think that the number is $14 billion that was allocated to this program. If it was to get, sort of to become exhausted, again, it's on Congress to act to keep the program going. But this isn't a COVID response program. I think that's important to note, right? That this isn't tied to the pandemic being declared over or any sort of other connection to COVID specifically. This is designed as a longer term benefit program that builds on existing federal assistance programs to add another thing for eligible families and households to be connected.
Thank you for that. And then one more question for me, and then please, I welcome other folks to bring up questions as well. But counties, especially since the EBB program came about, the Emergency Connectivity Fund provides another essential benefit. There are really all these essential programs that are helping students, teleworking become a reality. You mentioned a few pilot programs at the end of your presentation and how we can keep those on our radar. Do you have any suggestions in the coming weeks and months for how counties can kind of continue to keep their ear to the ground and really look for opportunities to partner further on the ACP, whether it's bringing FCC staff or presentation materials down to the local level, or really just future programming?
Yeah, we want that engagement. So I think, reach out early, reach out often. If you do visit the ACP website that I've been sharing, again, that's fcc.gov/ACP, you can find there's a form there that you can fill out to sign up for updates. So we do, send out periodic emails with program update information. You can also follow and get on the contact list of our intergovernmental affairs team. I know many of you have worked with Gail and others from that group in the past. Reach out to them to find out about how to get added to that email list. Those are great ways to stay in contact. I think the other thing that I would encourage folks to do is, if you're interested in localized training or some sort of localized event. We're currently only doing things virtually. Hopefully that'll change in the near term. But to the extent that we can join you virtually and do either train the trainer events or participate remotely in a public event, there is a request to speaker button. We've got a great team that is working through those requests. We're happy to sort of meet you where you are as best we can right now, and join you to share information about the program and help to promote the program in your communities.
Well, that sounds great. It certainly seems like there are a lot of exciting opportunities, whether it be some of the grant programs you mentioned for outreach that the FCC is authorized to move forward with, or even just setting up a speaker down the line for different programming. So with that, I'm happy to kind of give one more pause, see if anyone has any questions for Ed here today. And if not, Ed, that's certainly a sign that you covered a lot of great material.
I do want to have, I did want to mention one other thing since we're here, and this is likely timely and relevant for the audience today. Last week, the FCC did announce a third window for our emergency connectivity. The Emergency Connectivity Fund. So there have been 2 prior application windows for that program. There will be a third application window opening for that program in April and closing in May. And you can find out more information about that by visiting fcc.gov/emergency-connectivity fund. And again, this is a third application window for the program. There are slightly different dates for when you can sort of seek the funding for. So I think that the first 2, it was a similar date line of July to June of 2022 to 2023. This one kicks that out to December of 2023. And again, that window will open on April 28th and close on May 13th.
Thank you for that reminder. And just for everyone's awareness, Ed, this program is primarily the benefit that goes to schools and libraries in terms of assisting with Wi-Fi hotspots and different devices.
That's exactly right. It really kind of builds on the structure of the E-rate program, but is a sort of pandemic response tied and does provide some slightly different opportunities than what's available traditionally through E-rate.
Well, that's great information. And I think I even remember reading from the FCC that this may be the last application window for the ECF as well. I'm not sure. I think that's at least what I saw on my end. But either way, an important window for applying.
Exactly. I think there's around $1 billion still available. So, dependent upon the level of interest, I think it could potentially be the last window.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. And I'll actually just put that link, I pulled it up here myself, into the chat. But otherwise, I don't think I'm seeing any other questions at this time, but getting a lot of thanks in the chat for your presentation today. So with that, I'm happy to give folks a little bit of time back in your day. Ed, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. We really appreciate it. And on behalf of counties, we look forward to continuing to partner with the FCC in the future on the ACP as well as other programs. And I even saw Judge Moore turn on his camera for a moment there. Didn't know if he wanted to add any other parting thoughts.
I just want to also thank you for taking the time to be with us today. We appreciate it.
Thanks again for having us.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Ed, and everyone else. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining us today.